And so, my fellow players, ask not what your DM can do for you, but ask what you can do for your DM. Hey there, I'm Permanent DM, the creator of the game All Mice Die, and today I have a message to all Dungeon Masters and players out there. Share the load. When we talk about TTRPGs, much of our language has baked into it the idea of it being a group activity. Even the basic unit of measurement for talking about any game is the party, and implies multiple people all being together doing the thing. But what isn't talked about as much is how you can keep the party going and fun flowing by dividing up tasks so that not only one person is bearing the brunt of things. Think about other common parties, a house party, a holiday party, a birthday party. The default assumption is that some of the elements of the party are handled by the person managing the party, the host, or in our case, the DM, but some hosts really just love doing every single aspect themselves, and they like having friends over for a good time, and that's fine. The experience is worth all the work, and that is great for them. In my experience, however, that is almost never the reality of the situation. Even the most all-encompassing, all-welcoming host wants a couple of things done, even if it's just cleaning up after yourself. In reality, there is a sliding scale where the host does all of the things on one end and very little on the other end. Maybe someone picks up the pizza for the party, everyone brings food to share potluck style, or everyone brings a present or a game. In a lot of D&D games that I've run in the past, this has also been true for the group. I might be running, but it could be hosted at someone else's house. You might all get pizza, and the DM has to pay their part of the split, or everyone brings drinks or something. But does this need to stop at all the normal party elements, or can you make it more likely that games happen by applying the same principle to the rest of the game, your DM and host, and share the burden of hosting the game itself? As a player, a great question to ask yourself might be, does this need to be something that the DM is doing? There are certain things that, at most tables, you do need to have the DM do. Do they need to track the monster's hit points, though? What about the initiative order? Your spells? The duration of the mind control spell on the cleric? Or maybe the map of the tomb ahead? You might have different answers, and different tables might have different answers to all of those questions. In the game I'm developing, All Mice Die puts exploration and West Marches play first. I put as much into the hands of the players as I can on a regular basis while still keeping that slightly D&D vibe. Where are we going next session? Well, players decide that before we even put it up on the schedule. Now that that's off my plate, what is still on my plate is what's in that locale and what's going on there. If I'm playing on a BTT and the players have a vague idea of what is there, I might ask them for some battle mats or art or cool things that they've seen, and they might use that to remind them of the location, and I can bring that to the game. This is because I tell my players that I can run more games for them if I spend less time looking up maps and splash screens and more time building puzzles and encounters and NPCs. And that extends to everything at the table. In All Mice Die, players roll to attack monsters, to cast spells, and to defend against monsters and traps and hazards and that sort of stuff. I've noticed without the load of me being the one in charge of rolling all the attacks against my players and saving against their spells or seeing if something my monster does can recover from, I'm free to focus so much more on the rest of the game. I have a limited amount of resources to be able to devote to what's going on, and the more of it that I spend on the optional extra stuff while the basics are being cared for by my players, the easier it is for me. Focusing on setting the scene, running the encounter, and revealing the elements of the game that are behind the screen, because learning those things and adapting to them in the encounter is what the fun and the focus of my game tends to all be about. At my table, I'm also not primarily in charge of monster hit points, ability recharges, initiative order, player hit points, or player abilities. That is all stuff that I have on demand, but the onus of tracking those things and moving the game along falls to different players at the table as we go along. When players make a check against a creature, they learn that creature's defenses and frequently write it on the table and include it in the session notes, which not only frees up my mental space to focus on making things dramatic and interesting, but also means that the people do not have to default to me as the one to answer every question. That, in and of itself, dramatically speeds up basically every type of play. Think about it this way. How many games have you played in where the start of many players' turns goes something like this? Which one of these guys has taken the most damage? Or what was the name of that advisor guy again? Or is that dude still dazed? Or how many rounds of the firewall are still left? Before they can then start making decisions to take their turn. Running a game where the players are storing that information on their side and can ask those questions while I'm resolving someone else's turn or explaining something else makes things faster, more engaging, and easier on all parties involved. The focus on sharing the load at the table with my players also extends to out-of-game things as well. My players know how much gold, and thus EXP, they need to level. They know what they're going to get each level. Even magic items are generated through heroic deeds, and the players know the deed that generated the magic item, so they can be involved in the process of creating this cool new thing for them to use at the table. It's not all on me. I take my session notes, but players write after-action reports. I've got another video on that you can go check out later, to summarize what's important for them and how to reference it later. Which means when someone asks, what was the name of that toad merchant that brought the frog skins? I'm not really on the hook for answering that question, and likely one of my players will and know that I talk about that person like they are Winston Churchill, who's sadly drowning in molasses. Developing a culture where sharing the load is the norm keeps everyone at the table involved and engaged. It reduces the things that the DM is required to do at a minimum to keep everything moving along. It makes people more active participants in what we're doing, and means not only do they know the game and their characters a little bit better, but the gap between what the DM is doing and what the player is doing lowers to the point that leaping behind the DM screen will seem more like a baby step by comparison. Players get more games with more relaxed DMs, and DMs get to spend their time on the parts of the games they feel inspired to do, rather than the parts of the game that they feel required to do. If you want to know more about this and get more hints for speeding up things at your table, check out the videos Speeding Up Combat and The Monster Wrangler by Matt Colville, link below. He's doing these videos for different reasons, but the core concepts covered in those two fit in here really well. And Matt Colville is the gold standard by which D&D advice videos are compared to, and for good reason. His Running the Game series is extremely helpful for Dungeon Masters, players new and old. If by some fluke of internet insanity you are watching this video without knowing who that is, there's a link down below and you are welcome. But if you do like what I'm doing here, well, like, subscribe, hit the bell button, and consider supporting me on Patreon if you want access to more of the cool stuff I have on offer. My West Marches game, All Mice Die, is launching on Kickstarter soon, so if you want to hear about that, there's also a link down below, and you can keep the conversation going by joining my Discord. Because, at the end of the day, West Marches, it's all about community. Until next time, thanks for watching.